Okay, I just wanted to say good morning to everyone. I know my students are still coming in and joining us, and I see we have a number of other guests. I'm happy to have you with us this morning or this evening, depending on where you are in the world. I know we have a global audience today. It's pretty exciting, I think. I'm glad we have this opportunity. Okay, everyone, I think we can begin. Just to clarify, this is an introductory course at California State University, Bakersfield on the religions of Asia. And this week in particular, we are taking a look at the Jain tradition. And we are fortunate to have with us some guest speakers to teach us more about the tradition from their perspective. These are people who have practiced the religion for quite some time and can share with us some basics on Jain ideas, philosophy, and practice. And hopefully we'll have some chance at the end for questions as well. Um, so I want to begin with a greeting, which I learned from my Jain friends over the last couple of years, Jai Janindra, which is Shailesh Didi may be the best way to explain that. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something like homage to the victor, the Jina,
Yes,
um,
yes,
the
yes.
Lord Jina. So that's something you can take right off the bat. Jai Janindra, a greeting if you do meet Jains in your community and you'd like to offer a proper greeting. With that said, let me introduce you to some of the people we'll be hearing from today. So, the leading guru or teacher, as my students should know, for the community of Jains we'll be learning from is Rashtrasant Param Gurudev Sri Namramuni Maharaj Sahi. His community sees him as a Jain saint whose thoughts, words, and work are an inspiration for people around the world. For his community, he's not only a profound visionary, but also a humanitarian, working to engender a positive difference in countless lives globally. He's the founder of Parastam, a socio religious organization in India with humanitarian initiatives and spiritually uplifting missions across the world. So far, he's inspired 37 young women and men to accept renunciation in the Jain tradition. We'll learn more about the Guru, Sri Namramuni Maharaj Sahib, as we go. But I want to introduce our speaker today, Param Asmitaji Mahasataji, who is one among the disciples of Gurudev. She's a leading cosmetologist, having treated renowned celebrities in India, and her life underwent a complete transformation when Asmitaji Mahasataji heard just one audio CD of Param Gurudev's discourse on the real identity of the soul. After deep contemplation, she decided to adopt Jain Diksha, that is, renunciation from the materialistic world, in 2016 under the guidance of Gurudev. Since then, she's dedicated her life in the pursuit of truth. She's been delivering online discourses on various subjects of Jainism for devotees from various countries like the United States, but also the UK, Malaysia, Singapore, UAE, Sudan, Congo, Sweden, and Australia. So that's quite a resume. So we were fortunate to have her visit with us this morning. So without further ado, please welcome Asmitaji Mahasaji.
शासनपति श्रमण भगवान महावीर स्वामी ने भावपूर्वक वंदन असीम उपकारी राष्ट्र संत परम गुरुदेव आप श्रीना श्री चरणों में भावपूर्वक वंदन A very warm welcome to all of you. It's very interesting to know the curiosity that you all have within your hearts to know about all the different religions of this world. And today, we have been blessed with this opportunity to gain some insight about what is this Jain philosophy all about. I'm sure today's world is a shopaholic world. Everybody loves shopping. And when you go for shopping, you must have noticed that whenever you shop anything, it could be your shirt, it could be your wristwatch, it could be a perfume, anything, you always choose what you like. You always buy what you like. You purchase things of your choice only. In fact, right now, whatever you're wearing, the shirt that you're wearing, or the wristwatch that you're wearing, the glasses, or in fact, even the smallest pen that you're holding in your hand, that itself is of your choice. Yes, we all wish to live as per our desires, as per our choices. Be it your life, be it your career, be it anything. Now, I would like to ask you one thing. If you have chosen everything that you are leading today in your life, if you have chosen everything and you wish to live as per your choices, tell me, are you happy the way you're leading your life? Are you happy? The place that you're born in. Do you want to be at a better place than you are right now? Do you want to see your career blooming? Do you want to stay in a better house? Do you want to have better future perspectives? I'm sure all of you would say yes to it, right? That we would want to grow. I would also want to choose. I would also want to choose my each and every aspect, whether it is living, whether it is eating, whether it is talking, whether it is my friends. I'm sure that you would also want, or you would have even imagined that what if I had intelligence like so and so person? What if I had features like so and so person? What if I was looking a little better? What if I was a little taller? What if, if? And it just goes on and on and on, right? Wouldn't you want to choose the next birth also in the same way? Wouldn't you want to choose, yes, Mr. Jonathan, tell me, wouldn't you want to choose that where would you be born in the next birth? Whom you would be born as? Which place you would be staying?
Yeah.
Which house you would be staying? What do you think? Right or no?
I think most people would say yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely better than not having a choice.
Right. So like the science right now has been doing cloning where you can actually design and you can actually decide what is the color of eyes that you want, what is the color of your skin that you want, what is the texture of your hair that you want. Let me tell you that Genism is your destiny designer. Yes. Genism is your destiny designer. The principles, the fundamentals that Bhagwan Mahavir has propounded to us, the principles that he has presented to us, they are actually creating, they are actually creators of our own destiny. That is what Jainism says. That you can create your own destiny. You are the creator of your destiny. There is no creator. But I would like to ask you, Danitza, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I would like to ask you something that what would you be born, what would you like to be born as in your next birth?
I mean, I've never really thought about it, but definitely as a human. And if
Okay.
I'm honest, probably in like the US or like Europe, one of those countries.
Okay, so you must have planned something for your future right now, right? Like you're studying, you must be having a perspective for your career and all, right? So what do you think that can you can you create your destiny, or do you think, or do you have a belief pattern that whatever is destined is going to come to me? Two thoughts. Do
Uh,
you think that you can create your destiny and you can actually play around with whatever you want in your life, or do you believe that whatever is destined is going to come to me? What do you think?
I believe that everything that we have to work for everything, that there is no preset destiny.
Okay. So this is where we would like to present a philosophy which says that you can actually create your own destiny. But many of us, we always get disheartened because many a times we see that we have worked hard a lot. Okay, I know I want to create my destiny. That means I want to give my 100%. I want to be dedicated. I want to give all the efforts. it so happens that in spite of giving all the efforts, in spite of doing all that you could have done, somewhere you meet the failure. And that is the time you think to yourself, if this is what was the result, if this is what I was going to meet with, why should I work hard? If this is what is written in my destiny, then I don't want to do anything. If this is what is written in my destiny, if I have to get success, any which ways I'll get it. Any which ways I'll get it if success is in my destiny and if failure is in my destiny, then also any which ways it is going to fall in my lap. But this is where you need to understand principle of Jainism, which believes in karma theory, which there are two types of karmas. I would like to introduce today two types of karmas. One is, there are two categories. In Jainism, they are called as Nidhat and Nikachit. For you all to understand, one is a flexible category of karmas and the other is a fixed categories of karma. Right? One is a flexible category. That means the karmas which can be modified, which can be transformed, which can be converted. And the second category is a fixed category. You cannot do anything about it. No matter what, no matter however efforts you do, but you cannot do anything about those karmas. So these are the two categories of karmas. One is the flexible ones and one are the fixed ones. Now, we do not know that what are the kind of karmas that we have already binded. What is in store for us in our destiny, we are completely unaware about it. So, Bhagwan Mahavir says that always persevere, always give you 100%, because if your karmas are of the fixed category, or if your karmas are of the flexible category. Now, as I said, you do not know. For example, you have this exam which is coming across, right? It's an exam of your university and you're giving 100%. You're giving all the efforts, but you do not know that whether you will score 90% or not. You do not know whether you will rank first or not. But you're just doing your efforts. Now, if your karmas are of the flexible category where it can be modified, where it can be altered, where it can be transformed, your perseverance, your hard work is capable enough of transforming your karmas and giving you the best desired results. You trying to understand? That where is the principle of hard effort falling in place? Why you shouldn't ever give up on not working. So what is this? Suppose if you worked hard and if it was your flexible categories of karmas, those karmas can be modified and instead of scoring maybe a 40% or 50% because you worked hard, you could now score a good 80%, 90%. Now let us consider the second case. You worked equally hard. You didn't know what kind of karmas you had. But if you had fixed categories of karmas, and in those fixed categories of karmas, if it was destined that you are going to meet a failure, no matter however efforts you put in, no matter however hard work you do, but you will definitely meet a failure. But you shouldn't get disheartened at this stage. You shouldn't get disheartened at this stage because as I said, suppose if you had left it to destiny, that okay, if it is written, if success is in my destiny, I'll score 50%. If it is not, then I'll score 90. Or if it is not, I may even need a failure. I do not want to work for it. If you had kept that laid back attitude, you didn't know that it was your flexible karmas and because of your hard efforts, you could have easily scored well. So this is where we need to understand that this is how, by giving efforts in every field, we can actually play around with our karmas and we can actually get whatever we want. Whatever destiny we want to design, we can easily do that by keeping this principle in our mind that there are two categories of karmas, which is called as a flexible and the other is a fixed. Because we are ignorant enough to know the kind of karma. So we should always give in our efforts. Right? So this was just a little bit of introduction of two new words introducing to you. Celeste, have you understood what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Nice to see you responding. Okay. So, like, this was just a basic principle, one of the fundamental elements that I introduced to you. All these elements, all these principles, all the knowledge about Jainism, that whatever we have today, like Mr. Jonathan has been teaching all of you all, similarly, the Guru of our life, who has taught us Bhagwan's scriptures, he is our Param Gurudev. And today, we have this blessed opportunity where he'll be gracing us with his discourses. And now, I would like to request Param Gurudev himself to enlighten us with his discourse. Param Gurudev.
Hello. Hi, students. The California State University, where Professor Jonathan Young has invited to take a session on philosophy and religious studies. Today, first of all, I would like to appreciate your curiosity to learn something about Jainism. I truly believe that Jainism is not a religion, but it is a philosophy and a way of living. Whenever we do any action, it creates an image, an impression in your mind. You must have seen that whenever water splits from a glass, it starts flowing in one direction and then it dries up. But if you again pour water in that same place, you must have marked that it starts flowing in the same path, same direction that is had created before. Why? Because though the water had dried up, it still created and left back an image. So now, when you again poured water over it, it flowed in the same path of the impression. What is this impression? It's nothing but memory. The action got over, but it left an impression. Same thing happens with our life too. When we get angry, after getting angry, the act is over. But it leaves behind an impression of getting angry, which gets saved in the form of memories. So now, whenever you do any action of getting angry, it gets connected with this impression which is set in your mind. And hence, because of linking to the same impression, it opens the same file of getting angry and then you react. Now, tell me one thing. When you boil water, its temperature increases. But slowly, after some time, it comes back to its normal room temperature. Right? Because the real nature of the water is to be at room temperature. It's only when you heat it, it becomes hot. Similarly, whenever you get angry, how long can you remain angry? For few minutes, okay, for few hours, and then slowly you will calm down and come back to normal mood, right? Can you remain normal for longer time or can you remain angry for a longer time? Normal, right? Why? Because anger is not your nature. Ego is not your nature. So, what is not your nature, you cannot remain in that state for a longer time. Whenever you come out from your nature, you cannot stay in that state for a longer time. Understand? Every time you come out of your nature and get angry, it start creating an impression in your mind. Remember one thing. Whenever you remain normal or when you are not highly connected with your emotions, it does not create strong impression or image in your mind. Only when you come out of your normal nature, either you become too hot or you become too calm. As in when you get angry or when you give forgiveness, it start creating impressions and these impressions start becoming pure memory. Let us understand this with one example. Suppose a glass crockery fell from your hand and your mother saw it. When she saw this for the first time, she did not say anything. But it left an impression on her mind that you are careless, that you are careless. Now, when the same thing happens again and again, you dropped some glass from your hand and it broke into pieces. You must have marked that second time when some action took place, your mother got angry. Why? Why? Why first time she did not say anything and second time she immediately got angry? Why? What happened exactly? When the action took place first time, when you dropped the crockery for first time, before that time, your mother did not have any impression set in her mind. But when the incidents took place, she created an impression in her mind that you are careless. Right? So, one new impression entered her mind and got saved. Understand this very deeply. When you dropped the crockery for the second time, the same action got connected to the saved impression in her mind. And then she reacted. action of the present got connected to the impression of the past saved in her mind. That is how she reacted and got angry. Hello? Situation was the same, but past impression and present action gave a reaction and she got angry. So, past impression plus present situation or action is equal to reaction. Right? That means if we do not have any past impression, we do not have any reaction. Understand? How is that possible? I will explain it. What is this? What is this? Any guesses? No? Okay. This is called Rajoharan, a symbol of non-violence. We Jain saints always keep this with us to take care of small insects like ants, small cockroaches. Very soft. We believe in not harming even the smallest of living beings. Okay, now tell me again, what is this? What is this? Okay. All of you could now easily answer this. Why? What happened? When you saw it for the first time, you did not have any impression set in your mind. You were thinking, so you did not have any memory of what is it. Hence, you did not react. But when you saw it for the second time, you did not have to think much, but an impression that this is called Rajoharan. Had God set in your mind. So, present act of seeing got connected you to your past impression, past memory, and you immediately reacted unlike the first time. That means when we have impression set in our mind for anything, we tend to have faster reactions for that something. No impression, no reactions. If you have impression for anybody that he is liar, every time you see him, he talks to you, you will always first analyze, he is saying the truth or not. Do you know how many impressions can we save in our memories? We can save impression of past 900 births. Can you imagine how many impressions we carry within us? So, whenever any situation happens, it immediately links to our past impression. That memory pops up and we start giving reaction. That means if we do not have any memory or any set impression for any person in our life, then when we meet anyone, we will meet him the way he is in the present. We will not meet with past impression as we don't have any. And hence, we will not judge him. We will not judge him. When you set impressions, how many impressions do you set at a time? Every single time you see that person, you set one impression. And as many times you meet him or you even think about him, you again set up one more impression. Thus, the impression keeps on multiplying every single time and increase to manifold. Remember, whenever you meet anybody for the first time, and if in the first time you set a negative impression for him, then every single time you meet him, you will again create a new negative impression. In this way, your negativity for him keeps on rising. And lastly, now when it crosses certain limit, then this impressions of getting angry or looking at him slowly gets converted to not only being angry but into hatred. Because of our past impression regarding him, irrespective of him behaving well with us in the present, we will only see his negative sides. And hence, the first reactions on meeting him will be of hatred. Hatred. We should never let any negative impression enter our mind for anybody. Because one gives rise to many. Now, tell me, do you have any negativity for anyone? Honestly, if you deeply check yourself, you will definitely find out somebody. You have such negative feelings. Now, this is how we analyzed just one emotion of anger. In a similar manner, let us analyze our choices of career. Why did you used to become a CA or doctor or a financial expert? Why? Why? What made you choose your profession? For example, if you decide to become a doctor, deeply check yourself that somewhere you must have got impressed with some or the other doctor in the past. Must have got so much inspired from him that you finally decided to become like him. Let us assume that you became a top level doctor and now you are at a very high post. Will you be happy? Go and ask any of the doctor or any person who is at the topmost level. Will he be satisfied with his profession? Ask anybody. Is he satisfied with what he has in his life? He will say no. Why? Because At every level, your object of happiness kept on changing, and hence your object of satisfaction also kept on changing. Once I achieve this, I will be happy. Once I do this, I will be happy. But after achieving that thing, post or power, you may get happy, but do you remain happy? After some point of time, you would want to achieve something else. So, the things which made you happy earlier, now they no longer fascinate you, and you want to achieve a next level. So, it's a human psychology to never remain satisfied with what we have and to look out for satisfaction in things which we will achieve. Thus, he just keeps on running behind things one after another. If you consider your own case, as a child, you must have loved a toy which was your favorite. You always played with it and were very happy. After few years, you change your toy, and now your happiness lies in the new toys. The old toy no longer satisfied you. As you grew older, you started liking your cycle. After few more years, the cycle got replaced with mobile. After few more years, the mobile got replaced with some person, some career, and on and on and on. So with time, your object of satisfaction kept on changing. Your toy of happiness kept on changing. How many toys did you change till date? For how long? Remember, nothing is permanent. Remember, nothing is permanent. Neither the things, nor people, and not even the situations. Everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. And so is our happiness and our satisfaction too. Remember that with changing situations, our happiness and satisfaction changing. Now, that factor which decides what situations we will face is dependent on our karma. But what reaction we will give in those situations is decided by the impressions that every situation created and left behind in our mind. Are you understanding the link now? That since we have created an impression of happiness and satisfaction with one thing which gave us happiness. So, actually, it was not the thing which made me happy, but it was actually the impression about those things. Be it a toy, a mobile, a dress, a place for whom I had a positive image, and hence it made me happy. Similarly, many a times we may have set a negative impression for a thing. For example, let us consider that you were traveling by flight and your flight suddenly crashed down and fell in the river which was flowing down. You tried very hard, but nothing worked. You finally drowned in that river and your life ends. Now, more than the plane crash, you actually struggled a lot with the water and suffocated yourself to death by drowning in that water. So now, at that point of time, you developed fear for water as it killed you. Now, what happened after your death? You left your body, but what about the impression? The fear of water that it left behind on your soul. Now, whatever you take birth, what do you carry along with you from this birth to next birth? No power, no position, no money, no house, no relatives, only two things. One is your karma and other is your impression, your memory. So now, from last birth to this birth, you carried along with you, say, for example, fear of water. So now what happened? The moment you see water, you start feeling afraid of it. Are you understanding what I am trying to say? You must have seen that many people have different fears. Some have fear of water, fear of heights, fear of entering in a lift, fear of traveling by flights. What are all these fears? They are nothing but present reflections of your past impressions or past memory. It was set in the memory that I had drowned in the water. So, he fears because of his impressions, his memories. So, these reactions are because of our past impressions. These reactions, when they cross certain limit, then they become overreactions. And these overreactions are nothing but our allergy. Scientifically, even doctors have proved that these allergies are related to our genes, and genes are nothing but deep impression, such deep set memories. You must have seen that many people like eating bitter things, some like sweets, some like to go out, and some prefer staying at home. Some like reading and some like to talk. While some are scared of heights and some have motion sickness. Why? Why so many different tastes, different choices? Many people do different actions which they do subconsciously. Why? All these actions, our taste, our choices are related to our memory, which we have carried forward from last birth. And these memories are the reason of our present reactions. One more question. Why are you sitting like this in front of me? Any idea? Why are you sitting on chairs and not on trees? Why do you walk with two legs and not on four legs? Why do you walk and not hop like monkeys do? Why? You might say because we are humans. So, this is how humans behave. You have been trained right from birth to it, talk, sit, walk in this way. And that is why you are behaving like this. But imagine if you were born and brought up in a jungle, what would happen? You would also be hopping and jumping from one tree to another tree. You would also be walking on four legs. Your every action would be like an animal. Yes or no? Why? Deeply think about it. You are sitting like this only because you have been programmed to sit like this and talk like this. That means, whatever you are you real human? Or are you human of memory? Are you really human or just like a robot? Whichever memory we set, it behaves accordingly. Right? So, right from childhood, a human memory was set in your mind, and hence you are behaving like humans. Are you understanding? Are you following what I am trying to say? That means we are humans only by memory. Now, tell me similarly, you were taught to get angry or you already knew that? Be it anger, be it ego, be it jealousy, all these emotions. Nobody taught us, but we have been carrying it since so many births in the form of these negative memories. So, all we need to do is to purify our emotions, is to purify our memories. This is the beautiful principle which we have learned today. All that we are today is nothing but just because of our memory. And that is why one last thing I would like to tell you is that what would happen if you lose your memory? Suppose you have lost your memory. Now, will you be able to identify your mother? No. So now, when you look at her, will you get any motherly feelings toward her? No. Why? Because your emotions were in your memory. And the moment you lose your memory, you not only lose your emotions, but you will even lose your relations. This is a very bitter fact which reveals a hidden secret that if we want to work on our emotions, we have to work on our memory. If we want to purify our anger, ego, jealousy, we will have to purify our memory. And the best way of purifying memories is by chanting mantras. These mantras replace our negative emotions. They purify them and thus make us calm and patient. Now, let us chant mantras for some time. Namo Araham Namah. Now, you must have marked that after chanting mantras just for few minutes, it has relaxed your mind and your thoughts have calmed down. You all have very patiently heard to the philosophy of Bhagavan Mahavir on emotional memories. May you all get rid of your negative memories and become positive in your life. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Okay. We shall meet again.
That was Param Gurudev. And we truly feel obliged to have been blessed with his enlightening discourse. We would like to thank Mr. Jonathan Young for giving us this opportunity to spread principles of Jainism. If any one of you all have any kind of questions relating to this session or anything else which comes to your mind regarding Jainism, please feel free to mail us your questions. We'll definitely answer all your queries. And if you want, we can also have these kind of more interactive and informative sessions which will help your students also to gain some more deep insight on Jainism. Once again, I would like to thank Mr. Jonathan Young for giving us this opportunity. Thank you once again.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to Param Gurudev and also to Smitiji Mahasatji and Shaileshi Didi as well for helping me arrange this. I'm sure the students will have a lot of questions. If you prefer to do email exchange, that might be the most convenient way. But yes, I just wanted to extend my thanks, and I'm glad so many members of the wider community could join us as well. I hope that was useful for them too. So thank you once again. I appreciate that.
Yeah, how are you doing? I'm trying to. I was wondering, how do you feel about of COVID-19 and like in your perspective, like of what's the whole take on that?
Regarding COVID 19, Gurudev has been having these discussions with many of them, still deciding, still thinking about whether it's an organism, whether it's a chemical, and the kind of effect that it has been having on the whole society, on the whole world at a larger place. I would like to introduce to you right now a principle of Jainism which would really interest you. That why is this COVID spreading all over the world and it is targeting or it is infecting so many people at the same time? There's a principle in Jainism which is called as Samudanic Karma. As I was just explaining to you about the karma theory, there is one theory which believes, it says it is called as the Samudanic Karma. What it means exactly is, whenever we bind any karmas, whenever we do any action, many times you might be involved only. For example, when you're eating, it's only you who is involved in the process of eating. But when you go to see a movie, right? When you're going to a movie, you're in a multiplex, you're in a theater. So, along with you, there are hundreds of people who are seeing the same movie, right? Now, when a scene is going around, it's a violent scene which is going around, there are lots of fighting which is going around, and the hero and the villain, both of them are having a fight. Now, along with you, not only you, but along with you, all those, say, a 500 rough people who are sitting in the theater, all of them were seeing the same scene, right? And all of them who were seeing the same scene, suppose if your thought that the villain was being hit by the hero and whatever he was doing was right. If you thought the hero was hitting the villain and he was right, and you boosted his moral, you saying, yes, go ahead, hit him once more. What he did was not right. Now, along with you, out of those 500 odd people, suppose if 100 people also had the same feeling. Now we understand what exactly went. It was the same action of seeing one movie. But the same action was been enjoyed not by one person, but by 100 people at the same time. And those 100 people boosted or promoted an act which was a violent act, which was an act which was going to hurt somebody. Right? Though it was just an act, it was a movie, it was not even real. But what happened? In that moment, those 100 people binded the same karmas of promoting somebody getting hurt. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? 100 people at the same time doing the same act and promoting the same act of hurting or injuring somebody. So what happened, according to the karma theory, what Bhagwan Mahavir says is, all these 100 people have binded the same karmas at same point of time. What has happened? They have binded the same karmas. The kind of karmas where in future they will also suffer some form of injury, they will also suffer some form of hurt they will receive from somebody. But how? But how? Because 100 of them did the same action together, 100 of them binded the same karmas together, and in the future, whenever they'll have to repay or they'll have to bear the fruits of their karmas, all 100 will suffer at the same time, with same intensity, with the same depth that each of them will suffer. You understand? This is called as samudanic. That means karmas which are binded in a joint venture. Karmas which are binded together, clubbed together. It was an act which was done not by one individual, but many people were involved in it. And this is what exactly is happening right now with COVID 19. See, there have been number of diseases that are there in this world, but each disease does not affect everybody. You must have seen there are so many diseases, but everybody, maybe it could be restricted to one particular country, it could be restricted to a city in that particular country. But like COVID 19, which is spreading all over the world, over here, this is the philosophy of Jainism which we apply, which is called as Samudhanik Karma. If so many people are getting affected at the same time, it is somewhere in their past birth where they had binded these kind of karmas by doing some common act all together. And that is why right now, all of them, those who had binded, you must be seeing that even though in spite of being in the same house or in spite of being in the same building or in the same locality, all of them do not suffer. Right? All of them do not suffer. Why only some have to suffer? And out of them, all of them who have turned COVID 19 positive, all of them do not meet a worse end. Many of them are recovering, many of them are surviving, and they're healthy and they're back to the normal life. And in fact, if you see, there are so many of them who are infected, who are COVID 19 positive, but they have no symptoms, which is going on right now. They are absolutely asymptomatic. Right? So, what is all this? If it was the same karmas, it could have affected everybody at the same intensity. But, like I said, all those who had binded together, the intensity with which they were involved while binding the same karmas, accordingly, the results, they are bearing it. So, the take on COVID 19, if you go from Jainism's perspective, it is a very live example for us to see what Bhagwan Mahavir has explained in this philosophy called as Samudhanik Karma, where people do things together and that's why they suffer the results of the karmas also together. And I have a question it is from Monica Lee. She says that then how do you overcome this karmas? It's a very good question, which will really help you in these kind of state. Like you did something which was a negative act and you did it all together. Similarly, if you do a positive act all together, it helps you to overcome these kind of calamities. That is why the prayer, the strength of praying together, whenever you pray together, whenever you chant these kind of mantras together, the positivity, the vibrations, the positive vibrations, these mantras that emanate from within because of your chanting, the positivity that you emanate from within, when all of us do it together, what happens? The positivity spreads in the entire universe and it helps to calm down the negativity which is going on in the whole world. So what you could do to get over of these karmas, you should always get together in groups and do some form of praying, some form of mantra chanting, some form of spiritual practices where you're doing something and where you're praying for the well-being of the entire world, which is called as a Maitri Bhavana. In Jainism, there is a bhavana that means it's a good feeling, it's a well-being, wishing well-being for each and every soul, which is called as Maitri, means a friendship. You should have a friendly attitude and a well-being attitude for each and every soul of this world. Not only for my relatives, not only for the people whom I know, not only for the human beings, but for the each and every, whether they are animals, whether they are trees, whether it's water. Let us wish well-being for each and every soul of this universe. And when we do that collectively, club together, that positivity, that vibrations, it helps to calm down all the negativities that is going on in the world, right? I hope that answers your question. Yes,
More
Denitsa has
question. I
again.
see Denitsa.
Yes. Okay, I have a question from Denitsa which says, what would happen to my karma if I were to kill someone or something accidentally or in self defense? That's a good question. That what would happen to my karma if I were to kill someone? See, Jainism believes in the principle that we bind karmas by two means. One is action and one is the underlying intention. Right? Whenever you do any act, there are two ways of looking at it. One is the action that you're doing, and one is the underlying emotion. Many a times, the action and the underlying emotion they match with each other, and many a times, your action is something else and the underlying intention is something else. Right? To explain this to you, let me take an example of a doctor. A doctor who's operating. Okay, a patient has come to a doctor. He's got a big cyst in his abdomen and he wants to get it operated. Obviously, if the doctor has to operate it, he has to cut open his abdomen. He has to take a knife in his hand. He has to cut it open, right? Now, would you call that act an act of cruelty? No. Because though the act is of tearing open the abdomen, a thief, another person who is stabbing somebody, he would also do the same act. He would also take a knife in his hand and he would stab him by stabbing him directly the knife in his abdomen. See, both the acts are the same, right? Both of them are tearing open the abdomen. But the intentions behind both of them are way apart. The doctor is doing it with a very positive intention of wishing well-being for his patient. Whereas the person who stabbed somebody, he had a negative intention in his mind. He wanted to take a revenge for it. He had some negative memories in his mind and he wanted to take a revenge. And out of revenge, out of animosity, out of bitterness, he committed the same act. So what happened? Both the acts were same, but the underlying emotions were completely different. So when your action and your intentions, they both bind karmas, but both calculation of karmas by your actions are different and calculation of your karmas by your intentions are different. If your action is good, the karmas that you bind because of your action will be good. But because your underlying emotion was bad, the karmas that you bind because of your emotions, they will be bad. So at the same time, you're binding two karmas parallel. One is of the action, which is good, and second is of the emotion, which is bad. At the same time, suppose the action was bad, like I give you the example of the doctor, the action was bad of cutting, but his underlying intention was pure. He wanted to cure him. So now the kind of karmas that he binds, which be much more positive compared to the other act. So similarly, like you say, if you kill someone, you're killing somebody with a negative intention, you're killing somebody because you want to take a revenge, then the kind of karmas you bind both of the action of killing as well as your intention of revenge, your intention of hatred, will multiply your bad luck. But if it was an accidental death, you did not intend to do it. It just happened and you are extremely repenting for that act of yours. See, many a times we may do something wrong, but Bhagwan Mahavir always says, doing wrong is actually not wrong. But if you think the act that you did was not wrong, that is where you go wrong. You may do something wrong, but if you don't consider the wrong act as wrong, that thing, that mentality, that attitude is wrong. So maybe accidentally you were just walking by the road and you just happen to accidentally kill somebody, a small insect. For example, a cockroach came below your legs and you just accidentally helped to kill it. But if you repented for the fact that, oh, it's why I was not alert, I could have been alert, I could have saved a life. If you repent for it, then the kind of karmas that you bind it because of the action of killing, yes, you will bind bad luck, but because of your repentance, the amount of the intensity of karmas that you bind, that will be less. Okay, I hope you understand. Okay.
Yes, okay. I'd like to thank you again, and I know students have other courses to go to, so I want to appreciate their attendance and have some good questions. If there are
Sure.
any other ones, I will be sure to send them along.
Sure, we would.
And so just Thank you again, Jai Janindra.
Yes, Jai Janendra.